I got off watch at the 7:45 that morning, and I went down to get some breakfast. And the guy says, "I didn't know you had to watch. I didn't save any breakfast." He says, "I'll go to the galley and see if I can get you some." I said, "Oh, the hell with it. I got liberty. I'm going to take a shower and go ashore." So I went to my locker, took off all my clothes, and I'm standing there in my shorts. That's all I had on. And all of a sudden, come over to the loudspeaker, "All hands, man your battle station." And I looked at my watch. I said, "Oh, damn it. This is awful early to start drill. Now I'll be here for 2, 3 hours." And then they come over to the loudspeaker. "This is no shit. Move it." And I ran to my battle station with my shorts. That's all I had on.
Is it safe to say that when that came over the loudspeaker, because there would be no way profanity would ever be spoken on speaker, that everybody got the idea this was a real deal?
Well, when we started running to our battle station, a torpedo hit us right then. And then we knew something was going on. And by the time I got to my battle station, which wasn't that far, 2 torpedoes had hit us.
So a total of 3. Now, did that shake the ship? Did it
Oh,
knock you
yeah,
off your
it
feet?
sure did shake it. And
Did you have shoes on?
no, didn't have nothing on except my shorts. And so I turned around and we couldn't fire that 5-inch gun because it wasn't for any aircraft. It was for shooting ships or shore batteries. So we just watched the Japs come in, excuse the expression, but as they came in, this one guy, I saw him, he leveled off his plane, he dropped his torpedo and he looks out there and he waves like that at you and he banked off to the side.
Didn't you find that a little unusual?
Well, yeah, I didn't know what to expect.
So
But I saw the torpedo coming in. What could you do?
One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
One moment, please.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hello, NBC. Hello, NBC. This is KCU in Honolulu, Hawaii. I am speaking from the roof of the Advertiser Publishing Company building. We have witnessed this morning the distant view, a brief battle off Pearl Harbor, and a severe bombing of Pearl Harbor by enemy planes, undoubtedly Japanese. The city of Honolulu has also been attacked and considerable damage done. This battle has been going on for nearly 3 hours. One of the bombs dropped within 50 feet of KTU Tower. It is no joke, it is a real war. The public of Honolulu have been advised to keep in their homes and await results from the Army and Navy. There has been fierce fighting going on in the air and on the sea. The heavy shooting seems to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Just a moment, little interruption. We cannot estimate yet how much damage has been done, but it has been a very severe attack. The Navy and Army appear now to have the air and the sea under control.
Just a minute. May I interrupt just a second, please? This is the telephone company, the chief operator.
Yes?
We tried to get through on an emergency call. Could you tell me?
Well, we're talking to New York now. Please, 3, 4. Hello, NBC. Is all ready? 1, 2.
One moment, please.
Start with I was getting ready to go on liberty. I went up to the forecastle deck, the forward head. I'd already taken my shower, and I was about half shaven when we heard explosions and gunfire, which was out of the ordinary and shouldn't have been happening at that time. So I went and looked out one of the portholes, and looking back, I should have seen the USS Vestals, but instead of it, all I seen was a big meatball on an airplane. At which time knew we were under attack, and the only thing I knew to do was go to my battle station, which was on the third deck, the ammunition hoist. I got down to the battle station, and they asked for a hoist operator in the magazine, the 5-inch magazine, and I was the only one available, so I went to the 5-inch magazine, and we got about 3, maybe 4 rounds of ammunition in the hoist when we felt the jar of the ship, and all the power went out. We began to smell smoke, so just out of reflexes or common sense, we figured it was time to leave, and nothing was said or anything. We just left the magazine and went out. We had a straight opening going through the hatches right straight up, and as I was going out, the man ahead of me was in the hatch, and he couldn't. Told him to go on through, and he said, "I can't make it." And so I pushed him on through, and later found out that he was a man by the name of Gordon, and he had both hips broken. And to this day, neither him nor I know how he got through the hatch or got off the ship. He knows how he got through the hatch. And from there we went up to the quarterdeck and across the quarterdeck on the starboard side and stepped off the ship into the water, which is about a foot from the quarterdeck, and swam over to the air raid shelter on Port Island. Went in and signed a roster and come back out and watch the Nevada get underway, which was the best sight that we see all day. And from the rest of the time, we just more or less milled around the air raid shelter until they took us to the mess hall on Fort Island and assigned us a place to stay for the night, which I was assigned on the Tennessee for overnight, and then went to the receiving station and got clothes and set up to another assignment.
Do you have anything to add?
I don't believe so, with the exception that somebody was looking out for me with more power than anybody else had got, believe me.
Back in New York City, here's a bulletin. Honolulu, Japanese bombs killed at least 5 persons and injured many others, 3 seriously, in a surprise morning aerial attack today on Honolulu. The sky was filled with puffs of smoke from exploding shells fired by American Army and Navy anti-aircraft units. Whether surface vessels of the United States fleet were in action against the enemy could not be learned at once, but columns of water rising from the sea as shells hit the water indicated a naval action. Viewed from the hills back of Honolulu, where many city folk went to view the fight, columns of heavy black smoke went skyward from Pearl Harbor. And Washington. Senate leaders were preparing today for an emergency session tomorrow in anticipation of a message from President Roosevelt asking for a declaration of war against Japan. Berlin. A German spokesman declared tonight there could be no reaction from Germany to the announced Japanese air attack on Pearl Harbor until all sides of the case were at hand. And San Francisco. The Army and Navy went on a war basis on the Pacific seaboard today. All leaves were canceled, all furloughs revoked, and every man was ordered to report to his station. The commandant of the 3 naval districts on the West Coast appealed by every medium for every officer and man to report to his post. The commander of Harbor Defenses ordered, All Coast Artillery officers and soldiers of the harbor defenses are ordered to report to their stations immediately. All leaves and furloughs are canceled by order of the commanding general. Again, Washington. The Federal Bureau of Investigation announced today that it is completely mobilized and ready to deal with Japanese espionage and sabotage. Ottawa. Prime Minister Mackenzie King left his Kingsmere home today for Ottawa immediately after he was informed of the Japanese attack. In just a few minutes, we'll hear from NBC's Far Eastern experts, and one of whom is Upton Close. Another bulletin, the Secretary of War has just announced that all military personnel on active duty is to appear Monday in uniform. For the latest news on the Pacific situation, please keep tuned to this station.
I was on the starboard side, and of course we were hit on the port side, see? So I was clear across.
Had you reached your battle station by the time this torpedo hit?
Oh no, we got 2 hits before I got down my station.
What effect did it have on you and on the ship, these hits?
Well, the ship kind of jumped out of the water, you know, and the whole thing shook. And like I said, I thought it was our turrets firing, because that was about the same effect that the turrets.
Can you give us some idea as to the magnitude of the shaking of the ship? Did it knock you off your feet, for example?
Oh yeah, it's just like picking it up 10 feet and dropping it back down.
So you were knocked down?
Yeah, you know, just to the deck.
What happened next?
Well, you were trained to go to your battle station, and I went. There was 5 of us down in there, and by that time you could see it was listing. And we got another hit, and it knocked all the lights out. I mean, just shattered them. On that last hit, when it got black, one of the fellows had a cigarette lighter in him. And I said, it's time to get the hell out of here. And we started up the hatch, and about that time, we were all 5 of us right together going up. And it was just like a waterfall hit us. And we didn't know at the time, but that's about the time the ship turned over.
You couldn't sense, could you sense that the ship was turning?
No, you were just going up this hatch and just like in a waterfall. And there's only 2 of us come back out. The other 3 evidently were panicked and drowned when they, and of course you make for the top, you know, and you expect to hit maybe an overhead or something, but we come out.
How long were you in darkness after this water hit you? I assume that the cigarette lighter went out.
Oh yeah, that was just temporary, just a little bit of light we had.
3 men were swept away.
Yeah, they didn't come back. So we felled around, and then it was Centers, the other petty officer. We didn't know where we were. We thought we were 2 decks up. But we'd went up a deck, and then the ship turned over, and we'd went up another deck, so we're right back where we started.
So you were disoriented, so you retraced, in effect, your path.
Well, we went up twice, but the ship went over in the meantime, so we're right back to where we were.
Did you know that at the time?
No, we didn't know at all. And
how long did it take before you realized?
You have no idea. In fact, when I got out, I thought it was still Sunday. You just lose all sense of time. But anyway, after we calmed down, which, how long, I don't know, hour maybe or whatever, I saw something shining on the bulkhead over there. Now, I made my way over there, and it was a phone on the bulkhead. The phone's upside down. It had a little luminous dial, you know, like your watch. And then we realized that we were upside down and where we were. And knowing where we were and underwater, we just were resigned to the fact we thought the air would go bad, and that would be that.
Is this compartment you're in the size of an average room in a house?
Yes, this was one of the bigger compartments. They had 2 big air compressors in, and it was about half full of water.
So the water's coming up to where on you?
Well, the ship wasn't actually upside down. It was on a little angle, so you had a kind of a corner where we could hover on that corner and be out of water, but of course you're all wet and cold and damp. And
it's still pitch black except for the illuminated dial on the phone.
And I mean black is black, you know, no light whatsoever down there.
Could you hear anything on the outside?
Yeah, we could hear the Maryland was inboard, and they'd had these new 1.1 guns, you know, pom, 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 pom. We could hear them firing, and that was evidently the second wave that came over. And we knew we were sunk, but we didn't know what was going on, really.
What did you do next?
You couldn't do anything. There was nothing to do. We didn't even think to tap. We knew where we were, and we just thought the air will go bad, we'll go to sleep, and that's it. We didn't really talk too much. You have a lot of thoughts, and like I say, you don't know, you have no idea of time. Of course, you prayed a lot. That's all there was to do. You can't go through a steel bulkhead.
Did you know this other man very well?
I knew him fairly well because we were both second-class petty officers. We went in about the same time. Early Tuesday morning or late Monday night, we heard some tapping. So then it gave us new life. Then we didn't have anything to tap with. So we had to scrounge around, and I found a little open-end wrench. Neither one of us knew the code because we weren't signalmen.
Could you tap directly on the hull, or are you in a compartment?
Oh, we're in 2 or 3 compartments. See, the battleship has a double bottom, and then they have voids, which they counterflood, and then they have storeroom, and then you have the heart of the ship.
So are you saying you were pounding on one of the hulls?
We're pounding on one of the bulkheads, and it echoes out throughout the... You'd tap twice, boom, boom, and then they'd answer boom, boom, because like I say, neither one of us knew the code.
So how long did that go on?
Who knows? Like I say, you just lose all idea of the time. It took them about an hour, talking to them later, to work their way down through the double bottoms. See, they couldn't just cut wildly in there. You had ammunition, you had fuel oil, and everything else. In fact, they cut into a compartment that was cork lined. They were using torches, and by the time they got it cut open, the 2 guys had suffocated that were in there. So they used an air hammer. It took them about an hour to cut a hole big enough for a man to get out through the plate.
So this tapping went on for about an hour, and then finally what happened?
They drilled a hole first. They have these tapered plugs, so they can just plug the hole up, a test hole. And we were under quite a bit of water pressure. You could hear the air going out. And that shot of light came down through, just like a...
It was above you.
Yeah, right above us in. And I watched this water coming up, and I watched that hole.
The water was rising at this point?
Yeah, we were under quite a bit of air pressure.
Oh, so it was, in effect, sucking the water up.
Well, it was letting the water come up as the air pressure would go over.
Did it reach where you were standing?
Oh, yeah, over our necks.
So there you are in water up to your neck, but you have this shaft of light coming down?
Yes, the water is running out. Like I say, the hull wasn't right flat. It was on an angle like that, and it was leaking out below, and we were in the high corner. And that the rescue team left because they were afraid of getting flooded, and that was the worst feeling because you're that close, and then...
Could you hear their voices?
Oh yeah, you couldn't really understand them because there was quite a hissing sound of the air going out. But they left,
Because of fear for their own safety.
Unbeknown to us, they were going to come back on a little different route. And that's when we really felt the worst. Because, you're that close to getting out, and then you see them leave.
You thought all was lost. Your hopes were built up and then dashed.
In fact, this Centers tried to drown himself, and I pulled him back up, and I says, we're not quite ready yet.
You mean when the rescue party left, he tried to kill himself? He
was going to drown himself because you were to that point.
What did you say to him?
I grabbed him and pulled him up. I said, wait a minute, we're not through yet. And then you could hear him tapping again. They came back in on a little different direction.
By this time it's Tuesday?
Yeah, this is Tuesday morning. Finally, when we came out, Centers left. He hadn't had enough, and I sat there and talked to the rescue crew. One of the fellows was a first-class ship fitter, William Stanley Thomas, and he really organized the rescue mission. He was going by the Oklahoma Sunday afternoon. He heard some tapping.
But it wasn't your tapping?
Oh, no, it wasn't us. There was about 500 other people trapped in there at different compartments and stages of the game.
And they're working on a lot of them simultaneously?
No, nobody's working on anything. He goes over to the sub-base and gets some of our officers and says, I think we can get some of our men out. And, of course, if it hadn't been such a disaster, they could have got a lot of people out, but they weren't. They had other things to worry about, one ship with a few hundred men. And
when your rescuers finally broke through to you, describe that scene.
Well, it was a sickening scene when I came out and saw all the fleet on the bottom. The Arizona smoldering and all the battleships sitting on the bottom. We knew we were sunk. We had no idea that they'd sunk the whole fleet.
The attack yesterday on the Hawaiian Islands has caused severe damage to American naval and military forces. I regret to tell you that very many American lives have been lost. In addition, American ships have been reported torpedoed on the high seas between San Francisco and Honolulu. Yesterday, the Japanese government also launched an attack against Malaya. Last night, Japanese forces attacked Hong Kong. Last night, Japanese forces attacked Guam. Last night, Japanese forces attacked the Philippine Islands. Last night, the Japanese attacked Wake Island. And this morning, the Japanese attacked Midway Island. Japan has therefore undertaken a surprise offensive extending throughout the Pacific area. The facts of yesterday and today speak for themselves. The people of the United States have already formed their opinions and well understand the implications to the very life and safety of our nation. As Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, I have directed that all measures be taken for our defense, but always will our whole nation remember the character of the onslaught against us. No matter how long it may take us to overcome this premeditated invasion, the American people in their righteous might will win through to absolute victory.